She ain't crying this week. She ain't crying this week because dang, bro, what did I should have wrote this down. I promise you I have bars. Well, like I didn't really have bars because I don't have bars like that. But I had a whole rhyme about how I'm not crying this week. I had a song played out, and now I can't remember the song. So, I mean, I'm not crying this week because we just gonna get started with the video. Come on and get the intro in. Let's just get this going, okay? Okay. Okay, so welcome to another Shift Talk Sunday. This week we're definitely a little bit lighter than we were last week. Last week it was real. I did not expect last week to come with as many emotions as it did. And it goes to show that you can totally move past something and be over something and still be emotional about it. But we are here. It's another week. If you have been with me since the first Shift Talk Sunday, I appreciate you. I love you. Some of you have been here since before I even started Shift Talk Sundays. And when I had raggedy content, still loved your girl and supported me. So I love you. If you are new here, what's good? Welcome. Grab your coffee, grab your tea or whatever. Have a seat, pull up a chair. Welcome to Shift Talk Sunday. Welcome to Shamar Latanya. That didn't make sense, but we're going to move on anyway. So if you are new here, you don't know me, my name is Shamar Latanya. I am a minister. I'm a faith-based speaker. I'm a Christian life coach. And I am also a woman who is passionate about reaching those women who don't fit inside the box. I love women that are unique. I love women that ask questions, that just don't go with protocol. I love women that are not considered the good girls, because that's me. And the reason why I love these women, I have a passion for these women, is because these women, like myself, have often felt like we couldn't reach God, or we couldn't get close to God, or we weren't allowed in certain spaces or welcome in certain spaces because we're so out of the box and so out of the ordinary. And many of us have tried. I am not. Many of us have stopped trying, I should say. I'm not one of them. I find great joy in breaking down the box. I find great joy in breaking down your doors. I find great joy in when you try and put a barrier up around me, knocking that bad boy down with my sledgehammer. That is like, it's not here, but it's here. Okay. Um, and I find great joy in being my most unique and apologetic self. I understand that I'm still a woman of God and I'm still of use. So if you are a woman like that, definitely subscribe, put up a chair, because you are welcome here. And me and you gonna get this thing done together. Okay. So why did we start? Shift Talk Sundays have started because I just wanted a space for women to, like I said, just come and find themselves and who they are and be their best selves and be their most unique selves and feel safe. And that's what Shift Talk Sundays are for. And that's what motivates me at 1 o'clock in the morning filming with all these lights on and full face makeup, because I love y'all. All right, so Shift Talk Sunday. What are we talking about this Sunday? Last week I was like playing with my hair because it was a nervous tick. This week I got my hair done, so it's like feeling like a goddess. But this week we're going to be talking about betrayal. Betrayal. It is a, you know what? Let's go into the working definition of betrayal. All right, so a betrayal. Let me look at my phone. All right, so a betrayal, by definition, is the act, and I have a few here. The act of disappointing a person's trust, hopes, or expectations. The second definition is the act of revealing information in violation of confidence. The third definition is failure to keep or honor a promise, principle, or cherished memory. So these are the working definitions of betrayal, right? These are the ones that I was able to find online. I, Googled that bad boy. And these are all correct. Like disappointing a person's trust, hopes, or expectations, revealing information in violation of confidence, not keeping or honoring a promise or a principle or a memory. Those are all real. That's all real. And those all encompass the betrayals that we're all going to deal with, right? Or have dealt with. And if you haven't dealt with it, I'm gonna be honest with you, just live a little bit longer, as some of the seasoned saints would say. Um, but when we think about like the working definition of betrayal, we know we can add to that. We know that our definition of betrayal are. Let me tell you something. If I'm looking down, I have notes this week. Okay. Last week I didn't have notes. This week I got all the notes. But when we start thinking about betrayal, it is all of that, but it is gut wrenching. It is heartbreaking. It is like someone ripped your heart out of your chest and just said, I can care less about this thing, and threw it somewhere. It is paralyzing at first. It is confusing. It is anger inducing. It is it causes you to withdraw. It causes you to feel bitter. It causes you to feel stupid at times. And you should never feel stupid, but these are all the things that betrayal can do to you. And when we think about all the times that we've been betrayed, I think we can, if not connect to one of those emotions, connect to all of them. I dare so say that we feel all of those emotions all at once when someone that we trust and love and thought felt that way about us has betrayed us. And I want to point out there that, there may have been times where we have betrayed somebody. If intentionally or not intentionally, the human experience is it's a different kind of one. We've all done these things to each other, right? So that betrayal is something that you literally never forget. Some people just never forget that betrayal. I should have bought my water. But anyways, so when we talk about betrayal, the thing about betrayal is this. We always say things like, it's you should get over it. It's hard to get over it. Honestly, getting over it, it's not easy. And I'm not blaming anyone who has held on to that hurt and anger and pain of betrayal. I'm not. It's not easy to get over. But here's the thing about betrayal and getting over it. You should not really be getting over it. And here's why. Oh yes, I had to get my water because I saw where this was going. But when we're talking about the last thing we talked about was getting over it. And I hate when people use the phrase get over it or the term get over it. I hate when people tell somebody else to get over it. I do my very best not to tell somebody like just get over it, because to me the phrase get over it is very dismissive. Almost like, yeah, we know you're struggling, we know you're having a hard time, but it's really inconvenient. Could you hurry up and get through this? Could you hurry up and just get over it? And who is that really for? When you tell somebody to get over it, is it for them or is it for you? Because as a friend, you may be tired of hearing it or maybe tired of hearing it or whatever have you. But get over it is very dismissive. And when you dismiss something, you don't really deal with it. You're just pushing it to the side and then moving forward. And that's not what we do around here, because when you don't deal with something, you just kind of like push it to the side, it ends up coming up later, or it ends up coming up within your actions, which we're going to talk about today. But the first point I want to make is you don't just get over a betrayal. You don't just get over losing a friend or losing a relationship. You don't just get over someone breaking your trust, your hope, your confidence. And if you put in years with this person, whether they're a friend or a romantic partner, that's not something you get over, because now you're like, dang, how many years did I waste where I could have been doing something else if this is how you were going to end things? You don't just get over it. I'm also battling allergies. All right, so let's get into our shift talk points, because if you're not just going to get over it, then what are we really going to do here to move past this betrayal? We know we're broken. We know we know they gutted us. We know it's hurting. And for some of us, I've been hurting for years. For some of us, I have been dealing with this for years. For some of us, this has been following us throughout our life, making it hard to love, making it hard to trust, making it hard to have friendships. For me, it made it very hard for me to even say, I love you to people. And I'm still, not 100% there, but I'm much better than what I was. For some of us, it passes down generationally. So how do we stop here, deal with it, and move on? So that's what the shift talk points are for. So let's get into our shift talk points for moving past betrayal. All right, so shift talk point number one. You all know I have all the notes. Um, you have to acknowledge it. Moving past betrayal, these are all for moving past betrayal now, or beginning to move past betrayal. It's not an overnight process. But number one is you have to acknowledge it. Now, this is not my quote, but I heard someone say, or I read somewhere on social media or whatever, that you can't heal what you won't reveal. That is true even if you have to reveal it to yourself or you're not wanting to reveal it to yourself. If you don't even want to acknowledge that it's happening, how do you move past it? How do you take care of it? How do you heal from it? If you're not even willing to acknowledge that it's happening or has happened. And that is tough for a lot of us because, when you are, I am woman, hear me roar, I am strong and I should have caught that. It's easy to dog yourself out about it, and sometimes it's also easy to just act like it didn't happen to you versus admitting that, like, yeah, this happened and I didn't catch it. You know what I mean? But either way, you have to really acknowledge what's happening in anything. In order to get better at something, acknowledge where it's going wrong. So, with betrayal, you have to acknowledge what happened and acknowledge that it happened. Now, acknowledging it doesn't make it right. Accepting betrayal doesn't make it right. All it means is I'm willing to deal with this so I can move on. And we'll get into this a little bit later with the weekly challenge, but we also have to understand that when we accept that it happened and acknowledge that it happened, it doesn't let the other person off the hook. Karma, whether it is karma, whether it is you reap what you sow, there are some laws that are just universal. It just crosses all religions, crosses all beliefs, and what you speak happening is one of them, and another one is what you sow reap. What you sow you will reap. What goes around comes around. What you put out there is going to come back to you. And so you don't have to worry about the other person because really we're talking about you right now. How do you move past you? And if you can't even acknowledge what happened, how do you even begin to figure out what your next steps are? Everyone's healing is different. So in order to figure out how your healing is going to look and what you need to do for yourself, what you need to do may not be what I had to do or what the person next to you had to do or somebody else that you know had to do. It's yours. So with that being said, in order to figure out what your next step is going to be, you've got to be able to acknowledge it. Acknowledge that it happened. Imagine you see a staircase, and that staircase could be, it probably is not a straight up staircase, right? That staircase, someone says to you, oh, the staircase is winding and turning and you have to, it's really crazy and whatnot. In order for you to figure out how you're going to go up that staircase, you got to see it. And that is what your healing is like. In order to figure out, how you're going to heal and what you're going to do next, you got to be able to acknowledge that it's there and see that it's there. So the first thing is get out of denial. That's a river in Egypt. And let's acknowledge what's in front of us. Shift talk point number 2. I am going to use this word again. I am probably going to use this word every single Shift Talk Sunday. This word has become my superpower, and I've learned through lots of prayer and therapy that this is important. Vulnerability. I have said it again. It has made its way back into another Shift Talk Sunday for the 3rd week in a row, I think this is. Vulnerability. You've got to be vulnerable enough to tap into what you're feeling and tap into your emotions and name them. We give emotions such a bad rap. And the reality is if we were never supposed to experience our emotions, we wouldn't have them. We wouldn't be made with them, but here they are. The issue is not that we're not supposed to experience them. We're just not supposed to let them run over us and run us, right? Our emotions can help us decide what's good, what's bad. Emotions are part of your discernment as well. There have been plenty of times on the altar, working the altar and praying for people where I can tell what someone is going through based on what it is that I'm feeling. If I come in and my emotions are even, and all of a sudden someone comes up for prayer and I feel despair or hopelessness, I know that's not me, but I know I'm able to tap into what they're feeling. So emotions are not a bad thing. Vulnerability is not a bad thing. That's how we tap into the Spirit of God. That's how we tap into that still small voice, right? But you've got to be able to name your emotions, name what it is that you're going through. And I have to look at my notes, guys. I'm so sorry. I have to look at my notes because I wrote down a lot, and this hair is like, wow. So there are two different ways that we deal with the emotions of a betrayal. The first way, we suppress the emotions. We don't want to deal with the emotions. That's often the number one way we handle things. We don't want to deal with the emotions because we don't want to feel them. They hurt. It's gut wrenching. Who wants to deal with that? I get it. I totally get it. Like, I understand it, right? Especially if you feel like you've been dealing with negative emotions your entire life. Why would you want to purposely deal with it? But it's not like you're dealing with them forever. You're dealing with them so you can process on. So we suppress them. And when you suppress those emotions, you internalize those emotions. And that's going to affect the way you think. That's going to affect the way you talk. And it's these subconscious behaviors that begin to come out. And sometimes you may not know why. And it's because you suppressed it. Let's not even get into internalizing emotion. We already know the effects that stress has on our inner workings and on our body physically. Now, stress can come from all different ways, including how you internalize. You're literally keeping all of that negative energy inside of you. So I find that when I do that, and that's why I am really big on processing it out quickly, because if I don't, then that negative energy inside of me, it creates this, I'm lethargic, I eat horribly, I don't want to work out, I don't want to do any of these things, So that's the number one thing. We suppress it, we deny it, we throw it in the closet, try and close the door. We all know what happens when you throw things in the closet. I got a catch-all closet that I can't close the door right now, maybe because it's good, but whatever, it's closed, but whatever. The second thing that we do when we're dealing with the emotions from a betrayal, is we carry those negative emotions with us at all times, like luggage, like baggage. It's always with us. And when we carry it with us at all times, we keep it in front of us, it comes out as, girl, you can't trust nobody. I can't trust nobody. Everybody is against me. I ain't even dealing with nobody. This is why I only rock with myself. This is why I only deal with myself, because everybody has always let me down. Like, we all have said that, right? We all have been there. That's what happens when you carry them with you. You're not suppressing them because they're coming out as anger, bitterness, frustration. Someone says, I love you. I don't believe that. You can't believe nothing these people say. Yeah, I know what I was going to say. You can't believe nothing these say. God is still working on me. But that's how it all comes out. And so that's not good either. I had a little pop up on my screen. In both cases, the underlying or the connecting factor is not moving on from it. Just letting it sit there. Just letting it deal there. That's going to slow you. That's going to hinder you. And I have to look at my notes because the other part of that, remember, what was it? The week before last, we talked about the undercurrent effect and these things that we do that we don't realize that we're doing that cause the resistance in how we grow in life. So the undercurrent of all that is you begin to push people away. I do not believe that God wants us stuck inside of a room somewhere doing nothing and not engaging with anyone. I certainly don't believe that God desires for us to live in fear of human interaction. How do we tell people that the love of God is our joy? How do we tell people, or how do we show the joy of the Lord if we're always so fearful? And everyone we meet, they ain't right. That's not always the case. You might need to check your own heart posture and the experiences that you've had. How do we show God's love if we're stuck in bitterness? Guess what? Y'all not gonna like this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. If you don't handle your bitterness, it is increasingly difficult to show God's love and to show God's favor over your life. Because if you're bitter, you don't trust anyone, everyone is against you, everyone is trying to take you out, everyone is bad, and guess what? You've now made God look like this judgmental spirit who doesn't like anybody, because you are supposed to be a representative of Christ. We are living epistles. People are supposed to see us and see God. So if you're always walking around here like everyone is against you, and you're telling everyone that nobody is good, and you're making people afraid to have human interaction, please check your heart posture and get you some help. My mic fell out. But y'all see what I be going through to get y'all this? The devil just be playing me. Now, with what just happened, I personally, I think I've done a really good job at not making my daughter feel like, and I think I'm skipping ahead, but it is what it is. I'll go ahead and skip ahead. Actually, no, I'm not skipping ahead. I'm right where I need to be. But I think I've done a good job at making my daughter not feel afraid of life. I think I've done a good job at keeping my betrayals and how I felt about them to, not really to myself, but processing them enough so where I can teach her how to have healthy interaction with people. Now, my daughter is just a natural born introvert since she was born, so that's just her. But I think I've done a very good job of not making other people feel like they have to be afraid of life. However, the reason why I just went off on that tangent is because it has happened to me. I remember I have been told so often that everyone's against you. Oh, the friends you have, you can't be trusted. And this person, like, that's all I was. So almost to the point where I felt like, are you telling me these things because you don't want me to interact with anyone other than you? Like, are you telling me because you want me to be afraid of life and people? I never believed that that everyone was against me, no matter how many times I was told that by people in the church. No matter how many times I was told that, I never believed that everyone in my life was bad. Yet that's all I was told. Oh, who you're talking to isn't there for you, and your friends aren't there for you, and her friends aren't there for her, and I would never let these people say that to my daughter. It's hard enough dealing with life as it is, but when you put your trauma on somebody else and you make them afraid of living life, it's almost like, how dare you? And that's why it's important to deal with your healing, because this part right here is anchor inducing. How dare you try and stop somebody from living because of what you've gone through? Your discernment, is your discernment on or off? Is your discernment tapped into the Spirit of God, or is it tapped in what you've been through? Like, let's really think about it. So I try to tell my daughter that betrayal is a part of life. I tell her, someone is going to betray you. A friend is going to betray you. A friend is going to hurt you. A guy that you're dating may hurt you. It's a part of life. It's a tale as old as time, from Cain and Abel, all the way up to present day. But what I tell my daughter is, just because it's part of life doesn't mean you need to be afraid to live life. Because just as much as somebody will betray you, or people will betray you, there will be plenty of people who will love you that are not always going to be family. You don't have to. I feel like that's often kind of cult-like when families make it like you can't have outside friends. You have to only deal with us. It's kind of like cult-like, but whatever. I know family is important, but like, that's another thing. If we are pushing the love of Christ, we have to understand that our family is going to be beyond actual blood. It's going to be other people as well. Friends become family. But whatever, I digress. So I try and tell her that just as much as people are going to betray you, there will be people that will love you. And God will bring people into your life that will love you and will be there for you. And these people won't always be me or your dad or your grandmother or your aunts. So you will meet some very great friends that will be with you through life. Through life. You will meet some guys that will truly love you. Even if it doesn't work out, they will truly love you. And I say to her, and I try to empower her to use her discernment, health in a healthy way. Like, if your gut is really telling you not to do this, then don't do it. You know what I mean? So, and I didn't have these in my notes, but I did put these in some other notes. When you don't handle that betrayal, this is how we pass it down generationally. And I find this more so with Black women. We are taught from birth not to trust. We are taught from birth not to open up. And I am sorry, but if you are a woman growing up in church, you are taught that everyone is a problem, that nobody has your back. And it's simply not the case. Now, granted, it's not in every church, but for the most part, it's how do I explain this? We we use that discernment in a very negative way, and that discernment is supposed to be to help free people. Um, so when we pass that down generationally, we now have a generation of women that are unable to have healthy relationships. And this is one of the reasons. There are many other reasons too that pass down generationally, but are unable to have healthy relationships, don't have good friendships, and ultimately don't live life because we become too afraid to. Life is meant to be lived. Life is meant to be explored. I have some great friends. I have met some great guys. And I have loved the majority of it. Have there been bad times? Of course. But I love the majority of it. But I pray and I believe that me taking the time to heal from my betrayals is what has produced a healthy daughter. And how she is really able to tap into her spirit of discernment much better than I did at her age. Let me just tell you. So, now, the next thing we're going to talk about, the next shift talk point, I don't even know where we at right now because I was on a tangent. You got to learn to grieve it. I know I'm telling you to move. I know I'm telling you to get past it. I know I'm telling you to heal from it and move on from it. But you also have to grieve it because you're not robots. And these are people that you loved and that you cared for. And it's okay to grieve the loss of something. It's okay to take the time to cry about it. It's okay to take the time to get the anger out. But what I will say is eventually you're going to have to move past the grieving, and you're going to have to move past the anger, and you're going to have to truly move on. I think that King David was a great example of this. Why am I telling you that you have to move on eventually? Why am I saying that you can't stay where you are forever? It's because you have a life to live and a life to do. Like, the betrayal shouldn't keep you in that one spot. I can't move on because I can't trust anybody. You know how many singers I have met that have talent and got into bad contracts and lost their trust? And so they got out of the contract and never tried again. You still have a life to live and do. So you, after you grieve and after you cried out, you have to get up. So like I was saying, I think that King David was excellent at experiencing his emotions and going through his emotions and dealing with his emotions and moving past them. I mean, and I'm definitely looking at my notes because I want to get this right here. Not the story, I want to get the Psalms right. But we're dealing with a young man who was anointed king, and he gets led into the palace, and the king at the time, King Saul, becomes his mentor, becomes someone that he looks up to and that he loves. And for a while, Saul loves him. But you know, how many of us know that they love you until you do better than them? And then all of a sudden, they don't love you anymore. And that's exactly what started to happen. Now, granted, it was fulfilling prophecy, but whatever. So now King David has gone from sitting at the right hand of someone that he loves and playing music for him and working with him and fighting beside him to running from him. His whole life has changed. He's no longer in the palace. Now he's in caves, in the wilderness, all because someone that he loved now wants to kill him and has lied on him and has stolen from him, his wife, and is now hunting him to kill him. David, the majority of the Psalms that we read, that we recite and that we connect to are David's expressing his feelings and his emotions about this betrayal. I mean, we got Psalms 18, Psalms 57, Psalms 59, and why don't we go there to one of them while we are here? Why don't we go to, let's pull out Psalms 59 real quick. How long are we at this play? How long are we here? All right, we good. All right, let's pull out Psalms 59. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll just read like a part of it just so you can hear like the emotions that my man David was experiencing. Come on, Shamar, it's the Bible app. All right. Psalms 59, it's titled Deliver Me from My Enemies. Deliver me from my enemies, oh my God. Protect me from those who rise up against me. It is... he's asking God to protect him, but in the same psalm, while he's talking about his emotion, he's also acknowledging what's going to happen and the protection that he has. So then, I mean, we look at Psalms, what? Let's look at Psalms 18. Psalms 18, the cords of death encompassed me. Like, man, my man was really getting it. The torrents of destruction assailed me. The cords of Sheol entangled me. The snares of death confronted me. In my distress, I called upon the Lord. To my God, I cried for help. From his temple, he heard my voice, and my cry to him reached his ears. David was in touch with what he was feeling and was able to express that and acknowledge that. And he moved on from it. In each one of those Psalms, for the majority of those Psalms, every time David expressed those negative emotions, he would move on and say, but God, but this. And that's what I need you to do. I need you to feel these betrayals. I need you to feel whatever it is that you're feeling. I need you to get it out. I need you to grieve it, but I need you to have a but in your spirit. I am angry, but I know I'm going to survive. This does not feel good, but I know I'm going to make it. This really hurts and I'm crying, but I know that I'm going to feel joy. This is, God deliver me from those who rise up against me and who are speaking against me, but I know I'm going to be victorious. I'm going to need you to get like a but in your spirit, okay? That's a really dope transitional word. So, here's why David had to do all that. David was anointed king at 12 or 13? Jewish, he was already a man by then, so it had to be about 12 or 13. He was anointed king, and he knew his purpose. He knew he was going to get there. He had to go through this. So guess what? In order to get to his purpose, he could not stay here. As a matter of fact, it was this betrayal that led him to his purpose. And for many of you, it is this betrayal that's going to lead you directly to your purpose or catapult you to your purpose and your destiny. So you can't stay where you are. Next shift talk point. I don't even know where we at, y'all. I have no idea where we are, but like, it is what it is. The next point, you know what I'm going to say. Please get the help that you need. Please go take your behind to therapy if you need it. Go talk to somebody. Go talk to a professional. Me and therapy is like this. I'd be like, yes, hey therapy. Hey girl. Me and therapy are like this. I love therapy. I would suggest it for anybody. I got one coming up this week. Okay, you can have Jesus and a therapist too. Come on now. So get you the help that you need to get past it. Because some of us, I don't even want to say some of us, some of you have experienced betrayal that is also trauma. That is debilitating. And a regular YouTube video may not be enough. It's this catalyst, and I pray that this is, but you need to go on and get the help that you need. I'm gonna mention getting help in every video, y'all, just so you know. And then lastly for now, you take the lessons and you move on. Take the lessons and you move on in a healthy way. There's a lesson in each one. Some betrayals that I have experienced just as of recently watching my friends move on, the lesson is have healthy boundaries. Don't let someone wear you out or wear you down. Another lesson that I have learned is when that still small voice speaks, listen, girl. Because every time that still small voice speaks and I don't listen, it turns up. The situation switches in the way that the still small voice said it would. If what I just said makes sense. I've learned to listen to my spirit, and I've learned to trust my discernment. I've learned to trust when the Holy Spirit is speaking to me. I've learned to trust my inner workings. So you take the healthy lessons and you move on, and you leave the betrayal where it is. If that betrayal happened in 1952, girl, it's 2022. You better leave that thing there. Honestly, that betrayal happened 3 weeks ago. I'm going to learn these lessons, grieve this thing out, and it's going to be left right where it is. You've got things to do. You've got life to live. You've got life to experience. And you can't do that fully if you're trapped in something. So, I'm going to issue you a little challenge. I remember I issued this challenge to a client of mine when I first started coaching years ago. And when I mentioned this challenge to her, the way, I mean, she just lost it. You want me to do what? I'm not doing that. Nope. They know what they did. I am not doing that. I don't think so. Some of you know what this challenge is going to be. But I'm going to give you the introduction anyway. Okay? Stay right. Don't click off, because if you know what the challenge is, don't you click off. You stay right here, okay? And you get this little intro. Okay, so if you have not guessed it, the Shifts Talk Weekly Challenge. I am going to ask that you practice forgiveness. Because and every time I mention forgiveness to like a client or somebody, that is typically the response I get. There is one client, if she watches this, she's gonna know I'm talking exactly about her. I mean, she was not happy with me, and is happy she was not with me. I said, okay, I understand you're not happy. Do you know what they did? They know what they did to me. Yeah, I do know what they did, and I know that it's stopping you from living. And the only way that I can get you to the point of living is if you forgive, so you can move on. We've heard this say time and time again. If you are a Medea fan, I know you've heard this. If you're not, I'm going to say it for you. You've heard it somewhere else. Forgiveness is not to let the other person off the hook. First of all, karma, reaping what you sow, getting what you give, that will take care of the other person way better than you ever could. Way better than you ever could. So it doesn't let them off the hook, because they still got to deal with what they did. And it's going to come back. Sometimes you'll be around to see it. Most times you won't. Either way, you forgive and you let go. So I'm going to ask you to forgive, because it doesn't let them off the hook, but it lets you off the hook. It allows you to move on. And honestly, what we don't mention enough is sometimes you're going to have to forgive people that aren't even sorry. You're going to have to forgive people that will do it all over again if given the chance. Don't give them the chance, though. You're going to have to forgive people who won't give you an apology or aren't not around to give you an apology. But it's for you. It's so you can move on. So how do I do that if they're not around? What you're going to do is I'm going to give you like a sentence that I use, and then a releasing exercise. So one of my favorite sentences is, I forgive so-and-so, whoever the name is, I forgive, insert name, for what they did. And I am letting it go so I can move on. Now, you may have to repeat this over and over and over again, and that's fine, as long as you practice the art of forgiveness. And then the next part is, if you really want to take it a step further with this challenge, I forgive so and so for what they so and so. You write it down. One of my favorite releasing exercises I have clients do sometimes is, once they write all that down, they're getting that energy out of them and onto paper and onto something that's outside of them. And then I have them do two things. Either they rip it up and they flush it, or they put it in water somewhere. You know what? Y'all didn't hear me say that, because environmentalists are not going to come for me, including my own kid. So we're going to scrap that, but I'm not going to restart this video, because that's a lot of work. But another way to do that is, it's one of my favorites. I love bonfires, and I love going to bonfires. I love having bonfires. And so another thing is writing that all down and then going over to the fire, which is, fire and water are both regenerative. And I have them put it in the fire. Please be safe for legal purposes. I am asking that you do not set fires in your house or in your living spaces. I'm asking that you are safe, that it's a controlled environment, that nothing is set on fire for legal purposes. Don't be out here just lighting things on fire just because, okay? I do not want you to do that. Like, have a bonfire or something. And if you can't have a bonfire, just rip it up, okay? But just that act of ripping it and watching it go to shreds and visualizing that going to shreds is a beginning step. Now, again, Forgiveness is something that you may have to do over and over and over and over again until you are healed. And that's okay. I think the biggest part about all of these shift talks and all these personal development is it's not an overnight thing, and that's okay. We want it to be overnight, but nothing is overnight. Even the betrayal took some time for them to do it, to think about it, to plot it, to plan it. Nothing is overnight. So I'm asking you, I'm challenging you to forgive these people. Have I forgiven everyone that I need to forgive? For the most part, yes. And I say for the most part because I often wonder if there are some things that are going to come up down the line that I subconsciously locked away. And if that happens, then I will go through this process with that person as well. It's more important for me to forgive and get it out of the way than for me to hold it inside. I'm experiencing too much joy to do that. Okay? So, don't come for me, but I need y'all to forgive. All right, that is the end of Shift Talk. I've got a few announcements to make over the week. Make sure you are sharing this out. Make sure you are hitting like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications. I will tell you one thing that is coming up, not next month. I'm looking at, February, March. I'm looking at sometime in April. We're going to start Shift Talk Live. Once a month, y'all. We ain't doing this every week. But that is coming up, and there are just so many other things that are coming up. There are just so many things that are that are down the pike. This is the best place I've ever been in as an entrepreneur. The best. And I love it here. So, like, subscribe, share this out, and I will see you next week for another installment of Shift Talk Sunday.